All right. Welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I'm your host, Rob Z. This platform was created for you to find breakthrough in your life. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. Today, I have the wonderful Cathy Derksen with us on the platform. I like to jump in right off the bat, Cathy, with a powerful question. And you're all about the word tenacity. And I love that because we don't hear that word often enough. And I'd love to know, what does the word tenacity mean to you in your life?
Perfect. And I've started saying that tenacity is my middle name. And part of that is, and as you see, the name of my company is Inspired Tenacity. And what that really means to me, I feel that those are some of the key ingredients that we need for making any big changes in our life. Whether it's getting unstuck, whether it's a career change, really any big changes are going to require inspiration, decisions, courage, and tenacity. Things always require keep at it, keep going, move forward. And to me, that's a big part of what tenacity means, is just that ability to just keep on going, no matter what obstacles get in your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so often in life, the word tenacity, it has a lot of power to it. It has a lot of meaning to it. And I feel like, I don't know how you are with this, but for me in life, it's like I don't have an option. Like I have to keep going. Because what is the opposite of not having tenacity? Right? What is the opposite of not pushing through things? It's being stagnant. It's falling backward. Right?
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you build your business around this word of tenacity and inspired tenacity. Because when we put a word in our life like that, then we have to see that word all the time. And we have to live by that word. That's why for me, Unstuck is in there a lot. Breakthrough is in there a lot, because those are things that I need, and you need tenacity to have those things. But those are things for me in my life that I have to see, because I know that I always grow. I always get better when I see bigger breakthroughs. So before we go any further, I just want to shout out everybody watching and listening right now. This is the Unstuck movement. These are real stories of breakthrough, so you can have examples, real life examples, that it's possible for you to get unstuck and break through from anything difficult in your life. The podcast is sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com. Cathy Derksen here today is the founder of Inspired Tenacity, an international speaker, and a 14-time #1 best-selling author dedicated to helping women rediscover their brilliance and step into new possibilities. Now, we talk about tenacity. We talk about being stuck. Where were you stuck in life when this breakthrough and the word tenacity really took hold for you? What was going on that caused that to happen?
Well, I was really in a place in my life where had suddenly really sunk in that I was living in a very toxic marriage, and also that the work environment I was working in was a very toxic, negative work environment. And it actually took a car accident to really kind of hit me upside the head and made me just stop and really look at my life. And I realized that life is too short for this. I had 2 teenagers at the time, and they were both really struggling as well in that toxic family situation we had. And so it was really that got me going, realizing that I needed to make big changes. And it wasn't just for me, it was for my kids and myself to just get out of where we were and start fresh. And so that's really where I started my getting unstuck. And that's where the whole thing around tenacity really had to sink in. So here I decided to leave that whole career behind, left the marriage behind, 2 teenagers in tow, starting all over again, new career, new focus. And so that was really, for me, the getting unstuck part was a leap. Once I realized it had to be done no matter what, that was just, again, that's where the tenacity came in. And while I was going through that time, when I had actually left the marriage, starting all over, had to get into a new housing situation, all of those things, I actually had almost a mantra that I would say to myself at those times when things were just, I couldn't go back. Going forward was really hard. And it was literally just chin up, keep moving. And that was something that I would just echo in my head. I would say out loud. It would just, sometimes it was really all I had to hang on to was just chin up, keep moving. I knew I was going in the right direction, but there were a lot of challenges along the way.
Yeah, there's something I like to live by, and people that I work with, we live by this too. It's we move now, no matter what. WMNNMW, right? So it's like, no matter what's going on, just move, just take action,
Keep on
make
going.
a decision, and keep going, right? Because I love the statement, like, if you're in hell, like, what? Don't stay there, right? Get out of it. Like, if you're in hell, keep going, because you're gonna get out of it. I always think that's such a good statement, because sometimes when we're going through something super hard, it seems like such a dire situation, and when you're in the midst of those things that seem like they might last days, months, weeks, years, decades, right? It seems like they're never going to end. But then you have to also remember, when you get outside of those things and look back, you're like, wow, that was such a long time ago, and you've learned so much from it. You grew so much from it, right? So if you're in hell, keep going, don't stop, keep moving. So this car accident, tell me, and I've had several people on here on this podcast who the car accident is what woke them up. So it's interesting that you've also had this experience. Tell me about, like, what happened in this car accident that shook you.
Well, basically my family, so my two kids, my husband at the time, our dog, we were on vacation. We were traveling down the highway. We were in an area that was a slow area just outside of a town. We were about to turn left, and this motorbike person decided that they were going to pass us at the same time. So they ended up T-boning us. And as you can imagine, it did not end well for that motorbike rider. They figure he was doing probably double the posted speed limit, and we didn't even see him coming. He was going so fast. And so literally we spent the next several hours on the side of the highway while the death investigation people were there, and just really that shock of, in a blink of an eye. And looking at it too, luckily my whole family, we were physically relatively okay, a bit of whiplash and obviously shock and trauma, but physically we were going to be just fine. And realizing, just a few inches in either direction, it could have changed that completely. He could have taken our whole family out with that, one simple act. And I think that's what it was when I realized, life is too short for this, and life could be gone in the blink of an eye. And I think that's really what got me, reviewing, what am I doing with my life? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing with my life? What kind of role model am I being for my kids? Mm-hmm. And that was part of it too, right? Realizing, okay, I'm living in this toxic, abusive marriage where none of us are happy, and thinking, well, what kind of example is this for my kids? Of what a marriage should be, what a life should be, what I should be doing with my time. And so I think that's where it really hit me, just that whole flood of, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah. Why? When I hear stuff like this, it kind of resets you into, like, our lives are so fragile, right? And things change in an instant. Everything can change literally in like a millisecond, and you don't even see it coming, right? So I'm just thinking of the guy on the motorcycle, kind of a metaphor for so many different things that come at us in life, but especially when you're driving, right? Yeah, you can be in totally, and this is a metaphor for everything in life, I guess. You can feel like you're in the driver's seat. You can feel like you've got a handle on things, but stuff can come out of nowhere and change everything in a heartbeat. And it rattles you, right? Just the fragility of life and the unpredictableness of it. So that struck me as a chord right there. I immediately thought also of, I don't know, whether you like Trump or don't like Trump, the attempted assassination. Just like, holy smokes, right? That could have been
blink of an eye,
a blink of an eye, tilt of a head. Life is so fragile in that way. So I could see how a situation like that would snap you into, like, okay, reassessing everything. Where do we have to go from here? What have I been doing right? What have I been doing wrong? Would you say that got you unstuck, or was that when you woke up to realizing you were stuck and now it's time to go on the journey?
Exactly. That was the wake up call. And then from there, it was really really digging deeper into, okay, what is it that I feel I'm supposed to be doing? What parts of my life do I need to change? And the whole idea of really starting almost from scratch. I describe it like I threw my life up in the air and reinvented it on the way back down. My original career was in medical genetics. So I spent 25 years mostly in hospital labs and public education. And so walking away from that job, that's a very specialized field. So there weren't a lot of different job opportunities. So leaving the work environment I was in really meant leaving the whole field behind. So a couple decades of work, behind. But it got me really thinking, what is it that I'm really meant to be doing with my life? What inspires me? What excites me? What really is my calling? And that's when I really started realizing that I felt that working with women especially was something I felt was near and dear to my heart. And I really felt that I needed to have a true impact on women's lives in a way that really was on a global scale, like reaching women all over the world. And of course, at that time, I had no idea what this would look like, how I would do this, what this even meant. And at that time, I actually went into financial planning because I thought, well, money is a place that a lot of women feel challenged. I thought, well, I can be that person. I can be that, that one that helps them to sort out their finances, feel more comfortable with what they're doing with their money. And so I worked for about 10 years in the big investment companies and banks. But again, it still hit me that, I'm not having the impact that I really felt I came here for. And especially given the limitations of that industry, where there are so many compliance rules and regulations and just what you're allowed to talk about and how you can present yourself. And I really felt there were so many other angles of reaching success that we weren't even allowed to talk about. Things around your mindset with money, the stories you tell yourself, your limiting beliefs, all those things, no matter what we're looking at in life, those things are really the things that control and limit the success we can have. And so now it's been, I guess, about 3.5 years now that I left that all behind. And again, it had to be that decision of, okay, I know this isn't the right fit. I'm going in the right direction, but this was not the right fit. And decision, move on, start over. What is the right fit? So it's a big, big leap again.
Yeah, having to start over again is such a big leap. And I mean, you had the example that you've been successful in one area of life, and if you've been successful in one area, you can transfer that over to another area. Not saying that that's easy; it's easier said than done.
Yes.
And it's easier to look back in hindsight and be like, "Oh, I could do it," than being in it and being like, "Oh no, can I do this?" And I was having this conversation with a friend the other day just about a relationship that they're in, and basically going through this conversation with my friend that they're done with the relationship. Like, they won out. But at the end of it, I said, so, and I kind of put my coaching hat on for a minute. I'm like, okay, so tomorrow you're going to call her and we're going to end this thing. And they go, no, not tomorrow. Not right now. I was like, oh, yeah, right. Because that's the process, right? It's the old saying, there's 4 frogs on a log and 3 decide to jump. How many jumped? None of them actually jumped. They just decided to. Just like in this conversation, my friend decided that they're going to get out of the relationship, but they haven't done it yet. And so I think that's a huge part to touch on too. When you decide you're going to change, and when you actually do start making the changes, those can be seconds apart or days apart, years apart, depends. For you, when you decided, how quickly after that did you start making these changes?
I would say that I very quickly started making some changes, but especially so going back to when I left the marriage, left that first career, I had to put my ducks in a row. So it wasn't that I made that decision I have to leave and turned around and said, goodbye, I'm gone. You've got to think about things, especially when you've got kids involved too. It's like, okay, where would we go? What would I do for work? how can I make this separation? What is this going to look like? Because of course, after we'd been married for 23 years, so your finances are intertwined, your social life is intertwined, there's so many parts of your life that are so intertwined that you really have to think about, how is this going to look? So I would say, might have even been a full month from when I made that decision, as this is what's going to happen, before I actually told him exactly, okay, this is what's happening. This is the right decision. How do we move forward?
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely spent time getting myself, I guess, even emotionally and mentally prepared to have that conversation. And like I said, to get all those other pieces of life kind of lined up, and especially the housing piece.
Yeah.
I had to figure out, okay, where am I going with my kids? What does this even look like? They're both in school. You got those other things to consider.
Yeah, there's so much to consider, and there's so many, there's other lives that are, I'm also divorced and remarried and have a 10-year-old son, and now a newborn son. But my 10-year-old, it's like, yeah, I mean, sure, this is difficult for me, but you're also carrying the weight of, like, this is my kid who's, they're along for the ride, so they gotta kind of deal with the decisions and the good and the bad decisions that you make. So making sure you make the right decisions is very crucial, and you're not always sure if you're going to do it right, but you have, like, going back to the beginning, you have to do something.
Yeah.
Right. So I think if your heart's in the right place, you can make wrong decisions, but make up for them. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, exactly. And I think too, as you brought up earlier, that whole idea of having confidence in yourself, that you've had success with other things before. So just knowing that you can figure it out, knowing that, yes, there'll be bumps along the way. You will make some mistakes, but you will figure it out. This is doable. I think being able to hold on to that is what can get you through.
Absolutely. So we're going to pause for 60 seconds to shout out the sponsor of the show. When we come back, though, I want to talk about the next part of the journey, right? Because now you're an international speaker. You're a 14-time #1 best-selling author. You're helping women rediscover new possibilities in their life. How do you go from this wake-up call to this level where you're at right now? Because I find that fascinating, that unstuck breakthrough part of your life. We'll talk about that in 60 seconds.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So, Cathy, I'm loving this conversation because I love the fact that you took the steps to do the things that you know that needed to get done. And now you can speak to the other side of all of this. So from the day of that car accident till now, how many years have passed?
That was in 2008.
Okay. So we've got
15-ish.
Yeah. A lot of time in the rear view to look back, like hindsight's 2020. You've now international speaker, 14-time #1 best-selling author, done incredible things. What gave you the tenacity to create what you've created now from the wake-up call that you received, and knowing that you had to get out of your marriage, knowing you had to get out of the career that was successful, that you had spent 20 years in? Where did that tenacity come from?
I think a lot of it does go back to what we were talking about, that inner trust of yourself, that you can figure it out. I also give some credit to the fact that when I was a kid, we moved a lot. So I spent a lot of my life stopping one situation, starting completely new. And so I had done that general thing a few times in my life. So I think that helped. But knowing it was the right decision, and knowing that, again, especially for my kids, that these were the right decisions and I was going in the right direction.
Mhm.
And, even though that first shift in my career when I went into financial planning wasn't the exact right direction, it was going in, moving in the right direction, but it was not the right answer completely. But I do give myself a lot of credit for being able to look at that and say, okay, this still isn't the right answer. I put a lot of time into this. I got the whole CFP certification, had worked 10 years in that field. And to be able to say, this still is not the right answer. I'm close, I'm getting closer, but this isn't exactly it. And so to be able to make that jump again. And what I'm doing now really has just come a lot through intuition. And trusting that process and trusting my gut when I am going in the right direction. Because if you'd asked me 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, I guess now, it has been about 5 years that I've been doing the books in general. But if you'd asked me several years ago if I saw myself getting into publishing and being an author, those were things that were never on my path. Science was where my education was. Biology was always where my heart was. And so it really was from the different experiences and the different people I met along the way. And again, really trusting my gut and my intuition and what it's telling me. Okay, this is the right direction. This is how you can create an impact with women around the world. This is something that helps me to, being in an anthology project, people don't realize, but writing your story and putting it on paper and releasing it out into the world for everyone to see, there is a therapeutic piece to that. People don't realize that it's not just about putting things on paper and publishing it. There is a whole other emotional side that comes with that. And I had started getting involved in books back in 2019. And at that time, I was just another one of the authors in somebody else's book project. And what got me started was their book that they were working on was called Emotional Intelligence, Mental Health Matters. And that was when I had gone through the divorce, gone through the career change, had gotten myself almost into, a good place.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt my story was one that I had to share, that my story was one that could help other women going through similar things. And that's really, again, what helped me to have that confidence, then to have that tenacity to just keep going when more reinforcements of, yes, you're going in the right direction. Yes, this is having an impact. So it's learning as you go.
Yeah, that's how you're supposed to learn. You're not going to know everything. I love to subscribe to the idea. If you have like 20% of the information on something, then you should start doing it, because you're going to learn the rest along the way. We all often, procrastination is just fear in disguise. So if we're thinking or perfectionism, because we think we got to have everything perfect and lined up, we're just fearful of starting, right? So you said a couple of things there that are so powerful, right? Because helping women to tell their story is the healing part. Anybody listening, like that's why journaling is so good. So you were saying about the writing being the healing. When we journal, or we just tell our story and put it out there to the world, we can, number one, you get it out of your head and you get it out into the world, whether that's on paper or if that's like through videos or speaking, whatever that might be. But that testimony is what heals us. Our story is our testimony. The testimony is the thing that we went through. Make your mess your message. That was a mess in my life. I got through it. Here's my testimony of how I got through it. Here I am now. That it heals you more every time you tell it, but it also helps other people whenever you tell it. And so that's
exactly.
That's why that's so powerful. And you said too, like, you got to start somewhere. So just like you, when I left, I was in radio broadcasting for 20 years. And when I left radio back in 2017, I started a digital marketing company, and I knew that wasn't where I was going to be for the rest of my life. But I knew, like, going back to the whole take action, I knew I had to do something to get myself as an entrepreneur started. I knew how to do digital marketing. I had built a following. So that's what I did. Now, it was not where I was supposed to stay. And I knew that. And I'm curious about you on this, because many times as entrepreneurs, we pigeonhole ourselves. We end up doing something we might be good at. We don't necessarily like doing the thing. And we can be working for ourselves for years in something that we don't like, which why am I going to go be an entrepreneur and get out of the 9-to-5 world just to do something that I'm not even enjoying? I got to make sure I'm doing something that I do enjoy. So you probably were successful in the financial planning. It was probably a lucrative business to be in, and you were helping people, but you knew you had to change. What was the catalyst for leaving that behind? Because that had to be hard to leave behind too. Like, now it's time to change again. For me, I know going from social media to coaching, very difficult, but I knew that I had to do it. I was going through a separation during that period, made it extra difficult. But for you, what was that like?
I think a big part of it was that knowing that I wasn't able to talk about the things that I really felt needed to be discussed to help people make those changes in their life. And like I mentioned, especially when you're dealing with money, I mean, people's lack of success, whether it's money or career or any of those things, isn't generally a lack of information. And in that industry, really, most of what I could do was give more information.
Right.
And general guidance, but not really addressing the things that are really impacting people's level of success and where they want to take their life. And so I think that was a big part of it, that seeing that gap in what I felt I could do versus what I was able to do in that particular career path. And it definitely helped that I had already kind of made some big jumps. And again, that confidence and, hey, yes, I can figure this out. I can make this happen in what direction I'm going to take with this. And when I first left the money world, I was imagining I would do something like a money and life coach. And so that's kind of where the direction I started going in. And again, I let myself listen to my intuition, and it still didn't quite feel right, wasn't quite right. And, allowed myself to listen to that and keep evolving and think, okay, what is the right answer? Where is the right fit? Where is it that my gifts are best serving others? And I know for myself, one of the things that I do very naturally is bringing people together. And as it works out, what I'm doing now with the anthology projects is exactly what I'm doing. I'm bringing people together, sharing their stories. And at the same time, there's a coaching element to it where I am helping them go through their story, figure out what are those main points that they want to be sharing in this chapter. And so there's almost a coaching part to it. There's a connection part, and a big part of what it also involves is bringing resources together to help these people, again, change their life in the direction they want to go, whether it's speaking skills, speaking opportunities, writing skills, all those other things that help build visibility are all things that I can bring into this package. So really, I've created this thing out of really just a vision that is allowing me to really use all of those gifts at the same time. And like you say, to do something that I feel excited about, I feel like I'm really having an impact, like really creating a true impact. And with the books that I do as well, I do bring together women from around the world. The book that's coming out next week, so actually we need to change that bio to 15 times international bestseller, because we've got a book launching next week that is already hit international bestseller. And so, but we've got people from US, Canada, Australia, Germany, South Africa, and the UK. So all of my books are really an international projects, which is really cool, again, because this is how I've kind of fit that vision I had where I had no idea what that was going to look like. But here I am, I'm doing this.
Yeah. And you just keep moving forward, right? It's such a good thing to stay on, because I love to talk about this, because we might feel like we made it to a certain place. And I think some people are fine, and it's fine we're all different, right? So some people are going to be fine where they're at, and that's okay with them. And that's good. That's a good thing. Other people, they're just not satisfied with where they're at, and they know there's more. I don't know what that is inside of some people. It's just a drive, I guess. Like for me, same with you. When I was doing the social media marketing company, what was I doing on the side? I was making videos. I was doing podcasts because that's like my broadcasting background. I love to do, but I love telling stories and I loved helping people. And I knew like I'm supposed to be helping people in a bigger way. I know that I'm supposed to be serving people with the things that I've gone through, using my skill set of broadcasting and also just of like being sensitive to things, that I can speak to something more in depth, just because I don't know. I just feel like I maybe feel more than other people, or not that I'm like different or unique, just like my own. I'm naturally more sensitive to stuff, and so I knew I had to keep going. Now, other people may have just stopped where they were at, but I was like, no, I don't have an option here. I don't have an option. I have to move forward. So that for you, let me ask that question. What is that? I have to keep moving forward. Where do you, because I imagine right now it's probably not done, right? This is the version of you right now. Is that how you feel? Are you going to keep growing and evolving?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And part of that too, like the bigger focus of the work that I'm doing is really around supporting, especially midlife women, to see that there is so much left for us to do. I would say that our culture in general tells us that, after the age of 50 and especially 60, that we're obsolete. Nobody really wants to know what we have to say. And it is almost like our culture tells us that we're supposed to just get quiet and disappear in a corner now.
Yeah, go into a nursing home and
exactly. Whereas I like to say that 60 is the new 40. So I would say many of us, as we hit 60, are in a position where we are full of, just
wisdom,
the wisdom and the experience and the drive, and have the energy to now do something totally different. And so to help women see that really we are surrounded by opportunities and possibilities, and that when we see there's a community of us who are stepping into these things, I find that helps give others permission to do the same. And I think that's a big place where my books come in, because it's filled with stories of women who are taking on big challenges. And so I see the reader taking that information and thinking, hey, I can do that too. And I always have my readers my writers add like tips and strategies, like things that could help the reader to take on their own challenges in life. And so to me, that's my bigger picture of really supporting especially women to take on those new things and see there's new possibilities, and that are not alone in wanting to do these big things. Because like you're saying, I mean, some people are perfectly happy in just doing what they're doing, and others, we know we need to keep going. And if not, they're going to be frustrated. They're going to just be not satisfied with life. And when we look at the fact that, 20, 30 years ago, our life expectancy was 72-ish. So if you retired at 65, it made sense you might just putter for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Whereas now we have to plan to live into our 90s and possibly our hundreds. So if you're 60, 50, or 60, you're looking at another 30 years of productive time in your life. Like that, to me, that's not a time to sit around and watch TV and go golfing. And, those are things you can do for a holiday. But we need to actually have a chapter of contribution in this time in life.
Amen. I agree with that 100%, Cathy. I love that. And, I think that's where you hear about people who retire and die shortly after, because when you tell your body and your mind that, well, I'm done, then your body and mind's like, all right, well, we're done here then. But if you were like, no, this, I'm just getting started. And I couldn't agree more, because what you said a few minutes ago is so true with anybody in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. You have so much wisdom, and we need that wisdom. And whether, I don't believe it's by design, but I think it's just by mistake that we have like separated, because in our society we like separate children from I always use the word adults to the elderly, right? We have like made these 3 separations, and we don't let those 3 things, those 3 groups of people intermingle, when you need to have little kids around you all the time. You need to have the wisdom of older people around you all the time. You need to have this circle always happening. At least that's how it just makes sense to me. And so the people that I get the most wisdom from are people that are older than me. Like my mentor, his name's Ray. He's 85, I believe now, maybe 86. And he's about to release his first book.
Cool.
So he's 86 years old, about to drop his first book, right? The guy doesn't stop. And that's what we need to be doing, because there's so much, you've so much to give. And also the fact, and here's an issue that you see often is people, especially younger people, don't want to listen to anybody older. They think that they have it all figured out, but we need to retrain that into, no, this is where you learn things, where you can skip steps in life. You can skip big mistakes in your life. You're going to hear lessons from people that have been through it, and they can help you avoid the pitfalls that could be coming for you. And that's so brilliant. And I love the fact that that's what you do for women, is you help them figure out in midlife how to take their life to the new level, because those can be the greatest. I would like to ask you this. At what era have you been living the greatest life in your life? What era has been the greatest for you?
I would say right now, and I did just turn 60 a couple months ago.
And so 60s, that's nothing. That's young.
That's right. And well, I come from a family that my grandparents lived into their late 90s, and my parents are in their mid 80s and doing just fine. So I know if I look after myself, I do have another 20 or 30 years to go. And yeah, I want to be like your friend who is doing brand new things in my mid 80s and looking for new things to learn and new social circles to, participate in. And that's, and I think so much of it is that we don't give ourselves permission to look at new things and to think, I can start over. I can do something completely different. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, is that they feel like, oh, well, I've done this job for the last 30 years. Why would I think I can now do something completely different? Or I've never been an author before. Why would I think that I can be an author? And so I think as we see others step into these new things, it really does help us give ourselves permission to see ourselves, to actually see ourselves in those roles, in those activities.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think this is a great example. So if you're in your 60s and listening or watching to this right now, know that right now it's possible for you. Talk to Cathy. Talk about that journey, right? But if you're in your 40s watching this right now, don't take your foot off the pedal, right? Don't put your foot on the brake. Like, know that there's no reason to slow down or stop. It's exciting, right? It's exciting, especially in the coaching realm. For me, I think like I'm only going to get better at this job the older I get. It's not like like if I was playing football or something, that'd be an issue. I mean, I'm 41 right now. I'd be done, right? But when you're talking about something that life experience makes you better at what you do, then you can do that thing until you're 90, and you're going to be, as long as you've got your, wits about you, you're going to be sharp, and you're going to be able to really impact people's lives. So I love that. And if you're younger than 40, say you're in your 20s listening to this, remember these concepts, because these are true. Don't listen to what society kind of teaches us, that your best years, you have, and I'm sure people who were like this. I have friends who were like this. High school, that was their best years.
And they're in their 50s and they still talk about high school.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, how? I mean, sure, high school for me wasn't that great, but even if high school was great for you, how did it not keep getting better, right? Yeah. And that mindset, it's that growth versus fixed mindset, and that's something that we have to cultivate in ourselves. So I love the fact that you're helping people do that. This has been an awesome conversation. If they want to find out more about you, they can go to inspiredtenacity.com and take part in what you're doing. Anything they should expect or anything you'd like them to do when they go to the website?
Sure. Well, I've always got new anthology projects coming out, some multi-author books. Most of my books are specific to women, but I do have some projects that are co-ed. And even if you don't see yourself as an author, if you see yourself as with a story or some wisdom that you feel you need to share, then jump into the books, check that out. And that's one of the big things. So I've got tabs up there that are new book projects. I've got a few of my books, my previous books, available just for free download. They're PDFs. So jump in there and download the books and enjoy them.
Very cool. Anything that you'd like to leave the audience with before we sign off?
I always love to wrap up with one of my favorite quotes. And it's a Howard Thurman quote of, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go do that, because what the world needs is more people who have come alive.
Mm-hmm.
And to
That's
me,
so
that
good.
just sums all of this up. Find what makes you come alive and go do that.
Yes. And by you doing the thing that makes you come alive, the world is going to need that thing, because the thing that you're inspired to do, you're going to do it at such a high level that people are going to be so magnetized to that they're going to want to be around that and figure that out for themselves, right? So you're kind of giving a gift to the world by doing that.
And just that positive energy, I think, can shift so much.
Yes, absolutely. Amazing, Cathy. Wonderful conversation. I'm glad we had a chance to connect. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. This has been the Unstuck movement.